Okay.
Okay, so I'm Heyoka here with TeamLiquid.net, here with Dustin Browder, I forget your title every time. Game director of Heroes of the Storm. I just want to talk a little bit about the new stuff. The game will be in release by the time this is out, so we can just kind of have a conversation. Does that sound? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to first ask about the new map because it seems really cool, and I think it's a little bit different than the other maps. It has some kind of new interesting mechanics. Can you just kind of describe a little bit about how you arrived at that design?
Well, for Fields of Eternity, we knew we wanted to capture this idea of heaven and hell on the same map battling each other. They're both pulled from the Diablo universe, right, and come here, but we really wanted to create that map that was divided between the two. We haven't seen too much of that in Diablo. There's been a couple of times. There was one time, right, where hell invades heaven. We really wanted to get both spaces sort of smashed together. And so we had this idea of having, what if you could literally be involved in the fight between these two forces, and you could sort of join one side or the other. And so we created these two immortals that are on the map that will appear every now and then and start fighting against one another. And you have to jump in and help out your side. You have to help your immortal by attacking the enemy immortal and defending your own, and being sort of part of this big epic struggle between these two giant creatures in the middle of the map. And so it really led us to this really fun place in this game where you've got to lane a little bit at the beginning of the game, but then it's off into the middle of the map, and you start fighting it out with these immortals, and there's these sort of rolling long battles of you defending your immortal, battling against their immortal. A lot of strategy about whether you want to defend yours, attack theirs, you want to split your focus. If you've got a good poker character, maybe that poker character can go harass the enemy who's attacking your immortal. And then what happens, of course, is as the battle rages on, we thought it'd make it a little bit more dynamic by having the immortals actually clash in the middle of the map at half health. When they're reduced to half health, they'll clash, and they'll go to a different location on the map, and you got to scramble to get to those locations and continue the battle again. And so it created a map for us that looked like Diablo, but had some different gameplay than some of the stuff we'd seen yet in Heroes.
So you're pretty happy with it so far, or are we going to end up? Is that pretty final, or will there be a lot of changes yet before the map comes out? Do you think?
I think it's gonna be pretty final. We need a bunch more art that we want to do on this map. Not a ton more, but some. Like there's some polish that wants to go into it. There's obviously the potential for balance changes. We are gonna have a PTR up for this map. We hope we're gonna try to get that up. I think it's on the 23rd of June, and this map will be on that public test realm, so players can go and check it out and see it there. So we get some more balance feedback there. I'm sure there will be balance feedback at that point that engenders changes, and probably after we go out as well, there'll probably be some more feedback that comes in on it. But this basic mechanic has been working for us very well.
So then there's also new heroes. Do you have a timeline for when you think those might come out?
Well, Johanna is going to launch on 6/2, I believe, with the launch of the game. So she'll come out when we go live. She'll be out there, and the Butcher should come weeks after that. We're targeting 3 weeks after that for the Butcher. We're trying to move to about a 3 to 4 week cadence on our heroes. As we got closer and closer to launch, the amount of work required for launch kind of got in our way and slowed us down a little bit. So it's quite a while between Kale and Sylvanas. And so we're trying to get to a place where we can get to a faster clip.
So there's something kind of cool with the Butcher guy where you go around and you have to collect those blood droplet things because they increase your damage. And you were referring to it earlier in the talk as like kind of a questing mechanic.
A little bit.
And there's a little bit of that in the game already, like with collecting souls with Diablo or whatever. Is that the kind of
Asmodan.
Yeah, is that the kind of thing you're looking to do more of in the future, like the sort of mini questing sort of thing, or is that just like how do you see that fitting into the game?
Well, we don't have any rules, right? And that's the most important thing that we always tell our design guys is we're trying to keep it as open as possible. So people ask, how are you going to narrow the space so that are you doing more of this? I'm like, I don't know, maybe we'll find out. We definitely like those. Those can be fun. We don't want to overdo it, right? Like there's a place we can do that. It's like, okay, everybody's got a quest mechanic. They're all out there trying to grab or kill or whatever so they can get what they need to be effective. We do want it from time to time, and it does seem to feel very good. It did felt very good, certainly on Butcher for us, to have these characters who are a little bit more evil, who are a little bit more selfish, to have them doing things just really to help them, right? Feels kind of cool. So I think we'll definitely do it down the road, but it's not like a mission to do more of that. We're actively trying to have no missions when it comes to hero design. We're trying to make sure that our designers and our audience understand that it can be whatever. Right? There's no rules here. There's no requirements. We want to be able to do all kinds of weird stuff down the road. People will come to us and say, well, we've got to have, a QWE. I'm like, do you? Do you? Is that required? Because we've done some heroes that don't really, right? Like Vikings don't really do that. Even Raynor doesn't really have an E. I mean, you can talent into it, but he doesn't really have a proper E. So there doesn't have to be, all the rules don't have to be sort of the same with each one. You need to have a hero you can choose need to be able to go to the battlefield. That's it. That's what it needs to be. And we'll do stuff that you've seen before, stuff that's predictable. Oh, this is a ranged assassin. I get it, right? We're definitely going to do heroes like that, but we also want to have the freedom to do some really unusual things.
So when you set out to create a hero, are there any sort of like, do you set out to create a hero that's going to fit like a specific role or anything? Or do you just kind of do the thing where it's like, it's more just like, you just have a concept that seems fun and you just kind of want to see where it goes? Is it pretty open as far as that, or how do you approach that?
It kind of goes different places for different heroes. When you set out to make an Arthas, we kind of know what he's going to be when you begin. There's requirements that are made by the nature of who he is, how we've seen him function in the past. When you set out to make a hero like Lost Vikings, there's not a lot of rules, right? And we can really do kind of whatever we want with that. Sometimes for characters like Murky, we'll set out to create something specific. So we knew we wanted to play with death mechanics with Murky, and we talked about, we're talking about Malthael, right? Would he be somebody we could play with? He's the angel of death. That would be somebody we could play with death mechanics with, and we still could do that down the road. But we started actually building it out. The actual kit would kind of seem kind of funny, like Malthael, it's got like a tombstone or something. I don't know what's going on. Like this wasn't working, right? Like it felt very strange. And so, from there, we started looking for a character that would be more interesting to put that on. So it really does depend on the hero, how it goes. Sometimes they are very driven by a specific fantasy. Sometimes they're very much driven by an idea for mechanics. Sometimes it's just, we'll just go to a designer and say, hey, we need another hero. You tell me, right? And that's really fun to be able to go to somebody and say that, like, I don't know, go pick somebody and we'll do them, right? It'll be great, right? I mean, report back, right? And maybe the artists have an opinion, right? And we can discuss it, but go find something cool and we'll see if we can build it.
During Heroes of the Dorm, there was that group interview with John Hodgson and another guy whose name I forget every time I try to think of it. But they were mentioning that they were just kind of making heroes, just kind of like what seemed fun and cool. Yeah. But then they ended up in this space where now there's no Diablo support heroes. There's no overlap with some, and they're saying that they found that a lot of people really want to be able to double dip with their quests, and so they get really annoyed when there's not heroes in certain roles. And so now that we're doing the Diablo theme thing. But again, there's still no supports. Do you guys have
no supports yet?
Okay, do you have a plan on going forward with that? Okay.
I don't know.
I just realized
check back soon. We'll
that's
see
not even
not
even a great question, because now there's like no possible answer for that.
No, yeah, I obviously we're not ready. We're not sure exactly what we're gonna do, but I hear the feedback for sure. There's no question that we could use Diablo support. I'd love to get one done. We'll get one done definitely in the future at some point. When I can't say for sure yet, because we're still working on stuff, right? But it makes a lot of sense.
So if you're doing the Diablo stretch, the Diablo month or however long it is, can we expect more of that? Like maybe like a StarCraft one around the time Legacy comes out?
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. I think we definitely want to do themes like this going forward. We have these events; they're themed around our universes, and we've got a bunch of heroes that kind of are themed in there. We have events, we have maps, battlegrounds. They're all themed around that. I think that would be very, very cool.
So then I want to talk a little bit, just moving on from that, about the matchmaking, because we talked a little bit about it before we did this, and it was really interesting, the stuff you had to say. So I want to go over just, matchmaking is sort of one of those things that we end up seeing a lot of feedback from on our forums, just from people that are kind of like, they have bad games or their team doesn't do stuff. So, kind of how much work do you guys see in the future do you have for kind of tweaking that system? It did very recently just get changed where it does the support, like it has supports on every team now.
Right. Yeah, we did this change where in Quick Match we make sure that everybody's got a support or nobody has a support, because we did notice in our internal data looking at the win-loss, the support was a meaningful factor in your win-loss. It would adjust you, I think it was like 4 or 5%, which is again not huge, but it's enough to feel sometimes, right? Not having a support versus somebody who had a support. We haven't seen that pattern with warriors yet, with tanks, so we haven't made a change for that yet, but maybe we need to. I could see scenarios where as we go on the road, we start noticing that as a pattern now, and we'd want to make a change. I think for us, for heroes, matchmaking is an ongoing concern. How much work? Infinite work. Like, it's never done, right? It's never perfect. It could always be improved. It could always get smarter, and it could always be better at finding a match for you. And so I think there's always going to be continued support put towards that system. So we sort of welcome the feedback, but there's no point we go, there, we have done it. Like, maybe, but I don't know. I can't see that. I can't see that day from here. That day seems very far away from me right now. Like, that could be years away before we're ready, to stamp that as done. And so, I'd love for us to continue to work on it. I'd love to hear feedback from players about what their experience was in games and what's going on, and we'll keep looking at stats, and we'll just keep tuning it.
So do you look at like in-game stats, like how well someone performs within the game, or is it straight win-loss?
Right now it's straight win-loss, but that's something we do want to do going forward. And what we're doing right now is collecting a lot of data from our games to try to look for things that cause win-loss, right? So we can look at something and say, oh, I see. these types of players are the better players. I can tell by how they play where their MMR is. Like I can look at somebody who's a very high MMR and I can see he always has these types of stats in a game, and somebody at a low MMR, he always has these types of stats in the game. And so when you first show up to the game and you're brand new, I can see what you're doing and go, oh, I see where you're headed, right? And we can make a better move. But we're not doing that right now. Right now it is absolutely based on win-loss. And so it takes us a long time to find out where you're at, and there could be spots where you get stuck in with some bad players, and it now takes longer to get you where you belong to be.
So in terms of moving on again, in terms of like strategic diversity, do you guys feel like the game is in a pretty good spot just in terms of being able to draft different kinds of teams and play different sort of compositions, or do you feel like in some sense, because the game is all objective based, you sort of end up having to draft similar sorts of teams to go after the objectives and then fight the other people versus like having different kinds of strategies. Like it was a big thing last week where people were doing promote, and all the NA players were getting really angry at it because they don't find it fun. Sure. So do you guys think that are you trying to look for more kinds of open kinds of gameplay, or are you pretty happy with where it is right now?
We're pretty happy with where it is, but we're done. There's two very different kinds of things, right? Like we're obviously happy. We think the game is ready to launch, and we think it's a fun game, and it's a fun game to play, and people have a good time playing it. Do we think that there could be more strategy we could squeeze out of the game? Absolutely. We're not shrinking. This game is not done. It's done in the sense we're ready to launch, but it's not over in terms of our development. Our team is growing. We're adding more people as we launch, and we'll continue to add people until we don't need more people to keep building the game that we want to build. And so, much like StarCraft, much like World of Warcraft, much like Hearthstone, this is a game that gets to live and go on, and so we're always looking to improve it. Now, StarCraft will have, a box that will come every couple of years, and that box will be our latest best thinking based on all the feedback we've had, all of the esports that's happened up until that moment. So there won't be those box moments for Heroes, but there will be constant iterative change as we see what actually happens, when we go through more esport this year, and we see what's happening in serious competitive play. So many people are learning the game right now, right? And there's so much that's still unknown. Are we at the limit of what is strategically capable in this game right now? Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe, right? And we're going to learn a whole lot more as we launch, as we get into these first couple of months here of the summer. We're going to see a lot more about what's going on, and then we'll be able to continue to make adjustments as we go.
So do you look a lot at like public games for that kind of thing, or do you look at tournaments too? How heavily do you weigh each of those things?
It really depends on that specific piece of feedback that we're dealing with. Sometimes we do see things that are tournament-only problems, but that's still huge for us, right? That's still something that we're very, very concerned with. And sometimes we'll see stuff that's really specific to, this is a pug game problem, right? And we'll try to deal with that. When we have conflicts, that's where you get the adventure, right? We're like, well, it needs to be nerfed for this side, or it needs to be, but that will buff it over here, and it's going to cause a mistake. Like if we nerf it for the pros, then, the bronze guys will never use this ability, and we're hosed. And that's one of the things that our talent system gives us a lot of flexibility to. Sometimes we can make a hero go 50-50 by changing different talents. This is a talent the pros are never going to use anyway, because it's really not that useful maybe in the team fight, but it would really help a lower tier player get a little more out of this ability, right? And we can sort of pick our battles there. But it's always an adventure. You never know, and I can't promise you we always have the right solution. It is absolutely case by case.
So I guess this is totally different.
We need to wrap up, so
okay.
This would have to be the last question.
I'm going to ask one more thing then, yeah, okay. So then one last question I have is, those status effects, they got taken out like a patch or two ago. Yeah. Are we going to get those back at some point?
Not in that way, but we need to get some other, we took some of these out in preparation for doing a better pass at those. Those were kind of janky and icky, and we wanted to do them properly. And there's a bunch of stuff incoming that will replace those. But if we don't end up with the proper replacements, you get some of those back. But we do need to solve that issue, absolutely.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty good. That was a good talk, I think. So I wanted to thank you for your time. Do you have any shout-outs? Do you normally give shout-outs?
I don't usually give shout-outs.
Do you want to do it anyway?
Oh, sure. I just like to obviously, thank all of our players for playing with us, for staying with us, for giving us feedback. Team Liquid in particular has always been a very helpful and exciting, dynamic part of our community that's helped make our games better. So thank you guys very much for continuing to support Heroes of the Storm.
Thank you.